Hi, I'm Steve Kingsley from CBT Nuggets, and this nugget continues through the Prince2 themes. And this nugget is focused on progress, or the progress theme, tracking and managing the progress throughout the entire duration of the project, and ensuring that we communicate the results of our progress tracking, i.e. status reporting, to our project board and to senior management. So what does Prince2 say happens inside the progress theme? Well, Prince2 doesn't explicitly call out, but Steve calls out, progress is all about communicate, 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 and if you're not sure you've effectively communicated the progress, i.e. the status of your project, enough, communicate a few more times. To me, the secret to success for the progress theme is communications. And what are we going to communicate? We're going to communicate the status. But Prince2 is a little more explicit than that. Prince2 calls out how we're going to communicate and manage our progress. We're going to manage everything by stages, and that should come as no surprise to you. We've been very focused on stage development through our process model. So we will manage and track our progress within the stages and at a larger level at the project, recognizing at the end of every stage we double back and validate that our project is still working correctly. We will also manage by exceptions. So as soon as we get any of our key measurement areas out of tolerance that exceeds our power and authority, we will manage by exception, and we will escalate that to senior management, or actually first to the project board and then on to senior management. And consistent with this concept of managing by stage, we focus on continuous business justification. At the end of every stage, we redo the business case. And a key element of redoing the business case is revalidating the cost benefit. And we'll close this nugget with a review of the few key tools or controls in Prince2 terminology that we have in place to help us track and manage progress on our project. And the first activity in progress tracking, as I said, is communicate. And the risk of repeating myself, but I will, communicate, communicate, communicate. And if you're not sure the message has been delivered, communicate one more time. And we need to communicate upwards to the project board and to senior management, and we need to communicate downwards. We need to communicate to our team. We need to communicate to the business. And we need to communicate sideways. We need to communicate with other projects and other business areas, and with our suppliers, and with our customers, and with anyone else that has even a fleeting interest in our project. And we need to communicate constantly. We need to communicate daily. Now, hopefully, and I would highly encourage not communicating daily to senior management or to the project board for that matter, but we absolutely need to be communicating daily with our acceptor, with the key business person in our project, and we need to be communicating daily with the team. Project management is not sitting on a silver throne expecting the team to come to us on bowed knees on a regular basis to tell us what's going on. As project managers, we need to be in the trenches working with the team. But our daily communications, I'm going to say, is going to be informal. It's communications. It's hallway conversations. It's emails. It's instant messenger chats. But it's communicating to ensure we're keeping everybody informed, and probably more importantly, that we're getting the information that we need to stay informed in the project. With the daily information that we've gathered, we're going to communicate weekly. And that's our status report. So now we're going to move from the informal to the formal. And I'm going to put formal in quotation marks here because often our weekly status report can be slightly informal. slightly conversational, because the key person that we're going to be communicating our weekly status report to is the acceptor. And if we have a good, strong working relationship with the acceptor, the weekly status report will be more effective if we don't get too caught up in the formality of the format and focus more on the message. But it still needs to be a formal document, i.e. it needs to be a document, or it needs to be something that has shelf life. A good weekly status report is not dropping by the acceptor's desk and saying, it's going well. Fred and Jody and Sally and Ahmed are doing fine on their development tasks. The test team is starting to get the test cases developed. Any questions? No, that's not a weekly status report. A weekly status report absolutely has to be formal, has to be some form of documentation that's going to have shelf life so that we can track history. And then we move on to our monthly status report, and this absolutely is going to be formal. And I'll underline that twice, because this is going to go to our project board. This is going to go to senior management. And my experience in previous lives or in previous projects is, if we don't make that monthly status report look good, i.e. it is well formatted, there are no spelling errors, it's factual, it's ... Senior management will probably not take a lot of value out of the monthly status report and will not treat your project seriously. If Steve sends me a monthly status report that looks like he put it together in 30 seconds, they're going to assume the information in it is about just as valuable and throw it in their trash can. But if I send them a well-formatted, very professional monthly status report, they're going to treat it with some respect and really read it to understand how well the project's going. So, as much as I hate to say it, the presentation of your communications is almost as important as the facts that are contained in your communications. And we may need to do some quarterly reporting for very senior management or for general organizational briefings. But to conclude, we need to communicate, we need to communicate, we need to communicate. We need to ensure that the progress, that the status of the project is well communicated to everybody in the stakeholder community that has an interest in our project. And it should come as no surprise to you that Prince2 is very focused on management by stage or incremental approval. Our management by stages begins with the very first authorization, where we have authorization to initiation, or in Prince2 terminology, this is SU. Start up the project. This is the very short up front where we get approval to plan the project. And when we do the startup for the project, we do the high level business case, and we do the very high level plan. Again, this is the Steve validation of the eureka moment, but this is stage 1. We haven't got into formal project delivery yet. We are still very much in the formulative stages, but we are following a formal process to do SU activities to start up the project, to gather the data necessary to start the project. We present that. We present our progress. We present our status to management. With management by stages, we get approval to go on to the next stage, and we develop the plan, which puts us into IP, initiating the project, where we develop the real business case and the real project plan. I shouldn't say real, but the robust business case and the robust project plan. We again present that to management, so this is stage 2. And with that, management is going to authorize the project. And then we move into the full management by stages. where we start to follow our systems development life cycle. And that's where we have analysis and design and development and so on. So, management by stages, again, is a key concept within Prince2. All Prince2 projects have stages. How many stages you have is going to depend on the size, the nature, the complexity of the project, but all projects have stages. As a minimum, it's going to have the initiate stage, as described above. It's going to have the plan stage, as described above, and then it's going to have multiple SDLC stages. So I would say as a minimum, all Prince2 projects are going to have a minimum of 3 stages. Some projects suggest, or some textbooks on Prince2 suggest it's only 2 stages. We go straight from initiating to execution. I'm going to suggest it's 3. We go from initiating, we get approval, stage 1. We go to plan, we get approval, stage 2, and then we go into the execution, the delivery of our project. And then, depending on the nature of the project, it may be a simple project where we simply plan the scenario that I described earlier, the development of a playground for the neighborhood children, which is a single stage. Or we move into a very complex project where it's an SDLC, and we have multiple execution stages of analysis, design, development. But the key to Prince2 is all projects have stages. Steve is going to suggest a minimum of 3. Some textbooks will suggest we can maybe combine the initiate and plan together. I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't think that's really consistent with Prince2. And we must have authorization to proceed at the end of each stage. We get authorization at the end of IP, we get authorization at the end of SU, and we certainly get authorization at SP, managing the stage boundary, because that's where we get approval to move on to the next stage. And it also should come as no surprise to you that Prince2 defines a very formal process for management by exception. We define our management tolerances, and typically we manage or define our project tolerances for 5 variables in our project. We're going to define the tolerance for the schedule. So the PM has tolerance within plus or minus 10%. The project board, put another loop on the PM, has tolerances within the schedule for plus or minus 25%. And then executive has tolerances for greater than 25. For example, assuming we have 3 levels of management, we may have a 4th level in there that another authority has from 25 to 50%. This is going to be organizationally specific. Budget. We have tolerances for the PM. Let's again assume it's plus or minus 10%. Board is the same, 25%. External, and so on. Quality. Quality typically can't be measured in a plus or minus percent, but we're going to identify the number of infractions. Or the number of acceptance reworks. Or ... We need to be able to come up with some kind of quantifiable measure to ensure that we have a handle on exactly how it is that the project is being managed, but in the same behalf, we need to give some tolerance for the fact that quality isn't measured in as simple as we're 3 days late or we're $10,000 over budget as we get with schedule and budget. And scope is the same thing. We need to measure satisfaction. We need to measure the degree of change. And are we measuring the degree of change in terms of the magnitude? I.e., we have changed the project by a significant percentage. We have increased the scope of our project by 10%. or have we increased the scope of the project by a factor? I.e., there have been 15 change requests processed in the project, and we'll talk about the change request process in the next nugget. And risk. How many risks have been identified? How many have come true? How many have been removed as not happening? What's the impact of contingency? Are we using all of the contingency? So what's our contingency consumption? And so on and so on. The key is we need to identify what our management tolerances is, and then we need to publish it, and then we need to manage to it. And that's the key message that we have in Prince2 for management by exceptions, is we define the tolerances and we manage to it. And the reason we do that is so that, I'm going to call it, noise is avoided. And I don't mean noisy workspace in that we have people playing loud music, but noise is in project activity. As the PM is gathering the facts from their team members, and the PM goes to the individual team members and talks to Sally, and Sally says, I'm 3 hours late on this particular project, and talks to Ralph, and Ralph says, I'm 2 hours late on this particular task, and talks to Ahmed, and Ahmed says, I'm 4 hours early on my task. That's not noise to the project manager. That's music to the project manager's ears, because that's telling us exactly how the team is going. But we're not going to report that. We're not going to report the details to our acceptor, to our senior supplier, to our project board. We're going to take those facts and we're going to build it into the Microsoft project plan, and we're going to determine, with all of the individual facts from my team, am I within my ability to manage the project? And if it's 4 hours over and 2 hours over and 3 hours under and 6 hours over and 8 hours under, that should be all within my tolerance to manage as a PM. I'm managing that noise. I'm dealing with the facts. I'm working the project. And only when I have the cumulative that I am going to say, now all of those facts are exceeding my 10% tolerance. I need to alert the project board to that. And then the project board is going to manage within their tolerance, and only when it exceeds the 25% are they going to escalate it. And that's what I mean by the noises avoidance. I manage everything within my power and authority, and I only escalate, manage by exception, when I exceed my power and authority. One last statement of that, and then we'll move on. I don't wait till the last minute. As I'm doing my weekly tracking, and I get my facts from my team, and at the end of week 1, I discover I'm 0.5% over schedule, I'm going to just accept that, and I'm going to report I'm on schedule. But on week 2, when I discover I'm 0.75% over schedule, I'm going to again say, yep, not quite where I want to be, but I'm going to report on schedule. But by the time I'm in week 6, and I'm now showing a 1.25% over schedule, I'm not going to escalate it, but I'm going to put a comment in my status report that says, I am observing a concerning trend in my project. Over the last 6 weeks, my project has been progressively trending over schedule. I am taking proactive actions, but I'm going to issue a warning. Or as Steve says, I'm going to raise a very light-colored yellow flag. And by week 12, I'm now running at 2.25 over schedule. So my trend is continuing. All of my corrective actions are not taking place. And I'm going to re-raise my warning flag, and I'm going to probably put it a slightly brighter color of yellow. And by week 20, when I'm running at 4.5% over schedule, I'm going to start to change the color of my flag from yellow to light red, and I'm going to say this trend is continuing, I'm continuing to take these corrective actions, but it just looks like my estimation was bad, and it looks like my project is probably going to be over schedule. Be prepared so that by the time I come to the next week or 3 weeks out, when I finally exceed my 10%, no one's going to be surprised. So again, that's the key is we want to eliminate the noise. We want to prevent our senior management from dealing with all of the details, but on the same behalf, we don't want them surprised. So we are going to raise the warnings on an as-needed basis. And one more, it should be no surprise to you. Let's face it, progress has been well discussed throughout this Nugget series to date. We're simply recapping everything to do with progress theme in this Nugget to ensure you understand the importance of the progress theme, progress tracking in Prince2. This next one is continuous business justification. The business case is our most important document in our project. It is owned by our project sponsor, and it is the justification document. It is the reason that we're taking on this project, and we need to keep it current. And although not specifically called out in the previous discussion on management by exception, there will be cost-benefit variances or cost-benefit tolerances in place on our business justification. It's probably not going to be as formal, and it's not going to be as formal because we typically don't redo the cost-benefit analysis on a continuous basis in this stage like we do with the schedule, with the budget. We are redoing those on a continual basis because we are tracking the actuals, but we don't reforecast our cost benefit throughout the stage. We do at the end of the stage, and therefore we don't, again, specifically call out that when the PM identifies a cost benefit variance of 5%, it's escalated, and when the project board identifies a cost benefit variance of 10%, it's escalated. But at the end of every stage, when we reforecast our business justification, we reforecast our cost benefit, senior management is going to have their own variance. And again, it's probably not going to be as published and as formal as the tolerance, but when the cost benefit drops below a threshold, and I'm going to say a magical threshold, an invisible threshold, because senior management will make their decisions based on a number of factors, not a simple, oh, it's dropped by 10%, but senior management is going to say, based on the business climate, based on the economic climate, based on other priorities in our organization, based on 100 other things, when the cost-benefit variance that I'm reforecasting at the end of stage drops below a certain target, we're going to cancel the project. And as I've said before, that's a good thing. There's no sense putting good corporate dollars into a project that's no longer justified. So that's why we have this continued business justification in our progress tracking, to ensure that we're working on the right projects and that any projects that fall below management's expectation on return is going to get canceled. And again, no surprise, we reforecast our cost benefit statement at the end of every stage, and we've explicitly called that out in our Prince2 progress model. So again, I don't think I need to spend more time on this particular aspect. It's just part of the core management of the progress or the progress theme in Prince2. And to close out this nugget on the progress theme, we're going to take a very quick look at the various project management controls that we have within Prince2. And not explicitly called out, the main project control is going to be your project baseline versus the actual. So we have our schedule baseline, and we have our budget baseline. In week 1, in month 1, in month 6, we expect to be completed of 86 tasks. And at the same point in time, we expect to have spent $27,000 of our project budget. That's our baseline. At this point in our schedule, at this point in our plan, we expect to have 86 tasks, and a specific 86 tasks, not just a random 86 tasks, and we expect to have spent $27,000 of our corporate money, and then we compare that against reality. how many tasks have been completed. We are at task 85, we're behind schedule, or we're at task 87 in case we're ahead of schedule. And we spent $26.4 thousand, or we've $28.3 thousand. But that is one of our key project management controls, and the key to that is this term actuals, is working with the team and ensuring that the team is collecting realistic actuals and realistic estimates to complete. And again, that's a principle that we've already discussed at great length in this Nugget series to date, so I don't feel I need to go into that a lot more, but just recognize that progress tracking and progress management isn't going to happen unless we have a well-established project baseline and we have a well-established process in place to gather the actuals. But other information we're going to get for project management controls is the individual working with the team members as we understand the work packages. And this is the assignment and the acceptance of the work packages. As we assign a work package and we negotiate that work package with the team, we're going to identify things like scope change. When the team takes on the work package and does their detailed, I'm going to use the word analysis, but it's a very small a analysis of the work package, they're going to repeat back to me what they think the scope of the work package is going to be, and based on their discussions with the subject matter experts and their understanding of the inner workings of the project, we may identify some scope changes through the work on the project packages, the work packages, and therefore, again, that's a key project management control because that's going to help us understand and validate the scope variances on our project. We're going to continually review and monitor the quality register. Are we doing things right? And are we doing the right things? Our quality register is going to have all of those columns and all of those deliverables, and we're going to get our tick boxes. And we're going to identify the progress and the adherence to our quality register. And with that, again, it's going to give us all of the metrics that we need to successfully track and report on our variances around the quality measurement. And we're going to look at our risk register. What risks are happening? What risks have come to fruition, i.e. bad things or opportunities, good things have happened on our projects? And which are the yays, this risk didn't happen, I don't have to worry about it anymore, and I can put it away. And we're going to summarize all of that into our project stage status report, and we're going to present all of this back to project management. So again, you're not alone in Prince2 for the progress theme. We have lots of support baked into our Prince2 processes, our Prince2 principles, to ensure that we're ready for progress tracking and progress management. This concludes our nugget on the Prince2 progress theme. Prince2 progress theme is all about ensuring everyone knows about my project, knows my project status. All stakeholders above me, below me, and beside me that have any interest in the project status is aware of it, and that's what progress is. Progress is reporting on our project status. And again, without repeating myself, communicate, 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 ensure everyone in the stakeholder community is aware of it. And our main method of progress tracking is by stages. We obtain approval to proceed. Our approval proceed is based on a detailed plan for a stage. And because a stage has a relatively small horizon, and I'm going to use the word relative, if this is a very large project, an analysis stage could still be 3 to 4 months long, but compared to a 2 or 3 year project horizon, a 2 to 3 month analysis horizon or stage horizon is relatively small and manageable and plannable. So that's why we have a very detailed stage plan. We get approval to proceed with that, and then we get approval to conclude. So that's our management by stages. We have management by exception, where we have defined tolerances. For a number of key measures, we have a tolerance on schedule, we have a tolerance on budget, we have a tolerance on scope, we have a tolerance on quality, we have a tolerance on risk. And as soon as any of those tolerances are exceeded, we escalate to the next level of management to ensure that the next level of management is there to help us. By management by exception, we keep everything within our power and authority and control within our focus and do everything in our power to change it. And we don't bother to tell senior management that an individual developer has a 2-hour tolerance or variance on a task, but we escalate and sum it up at the management within our tolerances level. We have ongoing business justification. We want to ensure that the cost-benefit statement is always there and that this is the right project to be spending our corporate resources on. And we concluded this nugget with a review of the few of the project management controls that we have to support the progress theme in Prince2. This concludes our nugget on the Prince2 progress theme. I hope this module has been informative for you, and thank you very much for viewing.